June looked out the small window of the transport ship. The huge space station grew larger as they approached. Starbase Epsilon 9 was one of the biggest stations in this part of the galaxy. It was shaped like a wheel with 8 spokes connecting to a central hub. Lights blinked all over its metal surface. Ships of many sizes and shapes moved around it like busy insects. "First time at Epsilon 9? Asked the pilot, a green-skinned alien with 4 arms. "Yes," June said. "I just got a job here." The pilot's eyes widened. "What kind of job?" "Quantum fluctuation chamber maintenance," June said. The pilot went quiet. Then he moved his chair a little farther from June. "You humans are strange," he muttered. June was used to this reaction. In the 30 years since humans had joined the Galactic Confederation, they had gained a reputation. Humans took jobs that other species wouldn't touch. They went to places others avoided. They seemed to enjoy tasks that made other beings shake with fear. The transport ship docked with a gentle bump. June grabbed his bag and toolkit. He had packed light, just some clothes, personal items, and his specialized tools. Everything else would be provided by the station. "Good luck," the pilot said as June left. "You'll need it." The docking area was busy with beings from many worlds. Tall, thin aliens with blue skin moved quickly through the crowd. Short, furry, creatures carried boxes and talked in high voices. Robots of various designs rolled or walked alongside their owners. June followed the signs to the administration office. He had studied the station layout during the 3-week journey from Earth. The office was in the outer ring near the main living quarters. The door slid open when he approached. Inside, a willowy alien with translucent skin sat behind a desk. She had long fingers and large compound eyes that reminded June of a dragonfly. According to his studies, she was an Andorian. "Hello," June said. "I'm June Kim from Earth. I'm reporting for the maintenance engineer position." The Andorian looked up. Her eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of surprise in her species. "Another human," she said. Her voice sounded like music played on strange instruments. The translator in June's ear converted it to standard language. "I am Thelix, station administrator. We received your acceptance of our offer." She tapped on her screen with those long fingers. "You realize this position has seen 12 resignations in the past cycle alone?" June nodded. "That's why the pay is so good." "Yes," Thelix agreed. "The compensation is considerable, but money cannot repair a broken mind." "What exactly is the problem with the job?" June asked. The listing had been vague, just that the station needed engineers who could work with reality-distorting technology. Thelix's antennae twitched. "The quantum fluctuation chambers require regular maintenance. The work is unsettling to most sentient minds." "Unsettling how?" June pressed. Before Thelix could answer, the office door opened. A human woman walked in. She was short with black hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her uniform had the same engineering insignia that June would soon wear. "Don't scare him off before he even starts," the woman said with a friendly smile. "I'm Minji Park. I've been working here for 6 months." June stood up to shake her hand. It felt good to see another human after weeks of travel. "The chambers aren't that bad," Minji continued. "They just bend reality a bit. Most species can't handle the visual distortions, but humans seem to do fine." Thelix made a sound that the translator didn't catch. "I will let you explain the details, Engineer. Park, please show Engineer Kim to his quarters and then to the maintenance section." She turned to June. "Your belongings will be delivered. Your duties begin tomorrow at 0700 station time." As they walked through the curved corridors of the station, Minji explained more about their job. "The station uses quantum technology for power generation and artificial gravity," she said. "It's very efficient, but the equipment needs regular adjustments. The chambers where we work, well, the laws of physics get a little flexible in there." "Flexible how?" June asked. Minji thought for a moment. "Have you ever had a dream where you're in a familiar place but things aren't quite right? Doors lead to the wrong rooms or stairs go up when they should go down." June nodded. "It's like that, but you're awake. Objects might exist in 2 places at once. Time might run backward for a few seconds. Colors you've never seen before. Shapes that shouldn't be possible. And this drives other species crazy? June asked. Not just crazy. The last Valerian engineer who tried to work in there is still in the medical ward. He just sits and stares at the wall, muttering about the wrongness of it all. That was 3 months ago. They stopped at a door marked Residential Section B, Room 42. This is you, Minji said. My room is just down the hall, number 47. There's one other human on the station, Tae Lee. He works in the communications department. We usually eat dinner together at 1900 in the main cafeteria. You should join us. I will, June said. Thanks for the welcome. No problem. We humans have to stick together out here. Minji smiled. Get settled in. I'll see you at dinner, and tomorrow I'll show you the chambers. After Minji left, June entered his new home. The room was simple but comfortable. A bed, a desk, a small kitchen area, and a bathroom. The walls were a neutral beige, typical of space stations throughout the galaxy. June put away his clothes and arranged his tools on the desk. Then he sat on the bed and thought about what Minji had told him. Reality. Distortions, physics breaking down, visual impossibilities. He should have been afraid. Any reasonable person would be. But instead, June felt a familiar tingle of excitement. It was the same feeling he had when he was a child, exploring caves near his home, the same feeling when he first left Earth to see the stars. The unknown didn't scare June. It called to him. What Thelix and even Minji didn't fully understand was that humans like June didn't take these jobs despite the fear. They took them because of it. The universe was vast and strange, and June wanted to see it all, even the parts that didn't make sense. He checked the time. 2 hours until dinner with the other humans. Enough time to review the station schematics and prepare for tomorrow. Tomorrow, he would see the impossible. And unlike the 12 beings who had quit before him, June planned to smile when he saw it. June stood outside the sealed door to Quantum Fluctuation Chamber 3. He wore the standard blue maintenance uniform with the station logo on the chest. Minji stood beside him, checking items off on a tablet. Safety harness check. Emergency beacon check. Neural stabilizer check, she said. Normally we don't need all this gear, but it's your first time, so better safe than sorry. What does the neural stabilizer do? June asked, touching the small device attached to his temple. Honestly, not much, Minji grinned. The aliens think it helps, but for humans it's mostly for show. Makes the safety officer happy. June took a deep breath. Despite all his confidence yesterday, he felt nervous now. The door looked ordinary enough. Gray metal with warning signs in several languages. But everyone on the station avoided this area. During breakfast, he noticed how other species gave them a wide berth when they mentioned where they were going. Ready? Minji asked. Ready, June said. Minji pressed her hand to the scanner. The door slid open with a soft hiss. They stepped inside a small room with another door on the opposite wall. This is the buffer zone, Minji explained. It helps prevent reality, distortions from leaking into the rest of the station. She handed June a tool belt. Once we go through the next door, things get strange. If you feel sick or confused, just focus on me and the tools. They'll stay mostly normal. The inner door opened. June followed Minji into the chamber. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary maintenance room. Pipes and cables ran along the walls. Control panels blinked with colored lights. A large cylinder in the center hummed softly. Then June blinked and everything changed. The walls seemed to breathe. The floor curved upward at impossible angles, yet somehow he could still walk on it normally. The cylinder in the center was both transparent and solid at the same time. Inside it, something moved that hurt his eyes to look at directly. Weird, right? Minji said. Her voice echoed strangely, as if coming from multiple directions at once. June nodded, afraid that if he spoke, his voice would do the same thing. The quantum core creates a field where matter exists in multiple states simultaneously, Minji explained. She walked to a control panel that seemed to melt and reform as she touched it. We need to adjust the stabilizers every few days to keep things from getting too strange outside the chamber. She pointed to a set of dials. These change color depending on who's looking at them. Just ignore that and focus on the numbers. June tried to look at the dials, but they kept sliding away from his vision, as if reluctant to be seen. When he finally focused on them, the numbers scrolled backward and forward, changing and unchanging at the same time. "I see why the others had trouble," he said. His voice sounded normal to his ears, which was somehow more unsettling than if it had sounded strange. "You get used to it," Minji said. "Watch what I do." For the next hour, June helped Minji adjust various controls and replace components that both existed and didn't exist. The work was tricky. Tools would sometimes pass through solid metal or stick as if magnetized to nothing at all. Time felt stretched and compressed. Sometimes Minji's movements blurred with impossible speed. Other times she seemed frozen for seconds while her words continued to come out at normal speed. But June adapted quickly. He found that if he didn't think too hard about what he was seeing, his hands could do the work. It was like trying to catch a ball. If you calculated all the physics, you would miss, but if you just reached out, your body knew what to do. When they finished, Minji led him back through the buffer room. The normal reality of the corridor outside felt strangely flat and dull after the chaos of the chamber. "You did well," Minji said. "Most first-timers can't last more than 20 minutes. "It was interesting," June said. He couldn't find the right words to describe what he had experienced. "Get some rest. Your brain needs time to process," Minji advised. "We'll meet for dinner with Tai at 1900. That evening, June met Minji and Tai in the station's recreation lounge. It was less crowded than the main cafeteria, with comfortable chairs and a large viewport showing the stars outside. A few aliens sat at other tables, drinking colorful liquids from oddly shaped containers. Tai was tall and thin, with short black hair and glasses. He wore the green uniform of the communications department. "So you're the new crazy human," he said, shaking June's hand. "How was your first day in the reality blender?" "Disorienting," June admitted. "But not as bad as I expected." They ordered food from the synthesizer, a machine that could create almost any dish from raw molecules. June chose a simple bowl of bibimbap, craving something familiar after the strangeness of the day. "I think I'm starting to understand why other species can't handle the chambers," Tai said, sipping a drink that bubbled and changed colors. "It's not just the visual distortions, it's the conceptual violations." "What do you mean?" June asked. "The way cause follows effect instead of preceding it," Tai explained. "The way objects exist in multiple states simultaneously. It contradicts everything most beings believe about how the universe works." Minji nodded. "My Valerian supervisor tried to observe my work once. He was in medical for 3 days afterward, babbling about the wrongness of it all." June considered this. Maybe it's because humans evolved differently. Earth had such unpredictable conditions compared to most homeworlds. We became adaptable out of necessity. "It's more than that," said Tai, leaning forward. "Most species evolved with consistent natural laws. Their brains are hardwired to expect reality to behave in certain ways. When it doesn't, they can't cope." "But humans," Minji added. "We grew up on stories of impossible things. Our cultures are filled with myths, fantasies, and concepts that defy logic. We've been training our brains to accept the impossible since before we could talk." "I never thought about it that way," June said. "When I was a kid, I loved stories about magic and monsters and time travel, things that couldn't possibly exist in the real world." "Exactly," Tai said. "And look at our art, our games, our dreams. Humans spend half their lives imagining things that aren't real." "So it's not that we're fearless," June said, thinking out loud. "It's that we've been preparing for this our whole existence." Their conversation was interrupted when a group of tall, insect-like aliens entered the lounge. They stopped when they saw the humans, their antennae twitching nervously. Reality workers. One of them clicked to another in a language their translators could just barely catch. "Mind broken but still walking." "Be polite, Sikek," another one clicked back. "They can't help being strange. Their brains are damaged from birth, that's why the wrongness doesn't affect them. The aliens chose a table as far from the humans as possible. Tai smiled and raised his glass in their direction. The aliens quickly looked away. You get used to that too, Minji said quietly. We're valuable to the station, but we make the others nervous. They can't understand how we do what we do. To them, we're like people who can drink poison and survive, Tai added. Useful, but frightening. June thought about this as he finished his food. In just one day, his view of humanity had changed. On Earth, humans seemed ordinary. Here among the stars, they were anything but. Well, he said finally, raising his own glass. Here's to being strange. Minji and Tai laughed and raised their glasses too. To being strange, they echoed, and as the stars wheeled slowly beyond the viewport, 3 humans clinked their glasses together and celebrated the very quality that made them both outcasts and invaluable throughout the galaxy. 3 weeks passed quickly for June. He settled into a routine at Starbase Epsilon 9. Each morning he ate breakfast in the cafeteria, often with Minji or Tai. Then he spent his shifts maintaining the quantum fluctuation chambers. The strange reality inside those rooms still felt odd, but he had learned to work with it rather than against it. The other species on the station had slowly begun to accept his presence. They no longer moved to the other side of corridors when he approached. A few even nodded greetings. Being one of only 3 humans on a station of 2,000 beings still made him stand out, but it was getting better. June was in Chamber 2, replacing a damaged power coupling when the alarms began to sound. The walls of the chamber, which normally rippled like water, suddenly froze solid. The gentle hum of the quantum core changed to a high-pitched whine that hurt his ears. Most alarming of all, the distortions in the air began to spread out from the core in visible waves. His comm unit buzzed. June, get out of there now, Minji's voice said urgently. Something's wrong with the main core. All chambers are destabilizing. June didn't need to be told twice. He dropped his tools and ran for the buffer room. The door was already open. He sprinted through and found Minji waiting in the corridor. What's happening? He asked. Not sure, she said. But it's bad. We need to get to Control Center 5. They ran through the corridors as red warning lights flashed on the walls. Other station personnel hurried in different directions, some to safety shelters, others to emergency stations. Control Center 5 was near the central hub of the station. When they arrived, they found Tai already there, along with several alien engineers and scientists. Large screens on the walls showed diagrams of the station with flashing red sections. A tall, insect-like alien with shimmering purple skin stood at the main control panel. June recognized him as Dr. Ket, the station's chief scientist. The Rigelian's compound eyes reflected the flashing red lights. Ah, the human technicians, Dr. Ket said when he saw them. Good, we need you. What's happening? Minji asked. The quantum stabilization core is experiencing a cascade failure, Dr. Ket explained. His voice was calm, but his 4 hands moved rapidly over the controls. The chambers you maintain are just small units. The main core powers the entire station. One of the screens showed a large circular room. In the center, a column of light pulsed erratically. Around it, the air seemed to bend and fold in on itself. If we cannot stabilize the core soon, the effects will spread throughout the station, Dr. Ket continued, and possibly beyond. Beyond? June asked. A smaller alien with pale blue skin spoke up. The distortions could affect normal space-time for several light years in every direction. Ships, planets, everything. The gravity of the situation sank in. This wasn't just about the station. It could affect an entire region of space. What do you need us to do? Tai asked. Dr. Ket pointed to the screen. The core is experiencing a cascade failure. We need someone to enter the central chamber and manually reset the phase inverters. All the alien engineers in the room suddenly found reasons to look anywhere, but at Dr. Ket, none volunteered. I'll go, June said, stepping forward. Minji and Tai nodded in agreement, already moving toward the equipment lockers. Dr. Ket's compound eyes widened. You don't understand, the chamber is completely destabilized. Reality itself is fluid in there. Nothing makes sense anymore. Tay shrugged. Sounds like Tuesday in the maintenance tunnels. It's much worse than the regular chambers, Dr. Kett insisted. The levels of quantum uncertainty are off our charts. We have no choice, Minji said firmly. And we're the only ones who can do it. The aliens looked at each other, then at the humans. There was a mixture of fear and relief in their expressions. Very well, Dr. Kett agreed. But we must hurry. As they suited up, Minji explained their plan to the bewildered alien engineers. June will handle the physical reconnections. I'll monitor the quantum state from the auxiliary control panel. Tay will serve as our anchor, maintaining communication between normal space and whatever's happening in there. How can you be so calm? Asked one of the Centaurian technicians, a squat being with 4 arms. Aren't you afraid? Of course, we're afraid, June replied, checking his equipment one last time. But humans have always been good at functioning despite fear, not in its absence. Dr. Kett led them to a special elevator that descended into the heart of the station. As they dropped deeper, June felt the hair on his arms stand up. Static electricity crackled in the air. The inverters need to be reset in a specific sequence, Dr. Kett explained, handing June a small device. This contains the correct pattern. Once all 8 are reset, the core should stabilize automatically. The elevator doors opened to reveal a short corridor ending in a massive, circular door. Warning signs in a dozen languages covered its surface. This is as far as I can go, Dr. Kett said. His antennae were vibrating with stress. The monitoring room is through that side door. Good luck, humans. The entire sector needs you now. Tay took position in the monitoring room, where screens showed views of the core chamber. Minji went to an auxiliary control panel just outside the main door. Ready? She asked June. He took a deep breath and nodded. Ready. Minji pressed a sequence of buttons. The massive door slid open with a deep rumble. Beyond it, reality itself seemed to bend and twist. I'll guide you through, Tay's voice said in June's earpiece. I can see most of the chamber from here. And I'll keep the quantum fields as stable as possible around you, Minji added. June stepped forward into the unknown. The door closed behind him with a sound that seemed to come both before and after the actual movement of the door. The central chamber was both enormous and tiny at the same time. The light from the core cast shadows that moved without anything to cause them. The floor under June's feet felt solid, then liquid, then somewhere in between. First inverter should be directly ahead, Tay said, his voice distorted by static. About 20 meters. June tried to walk forward. His body felt heavy, then light, then sideways. The distortions here were far worse than in the maintenance chambers. Colors he had never seen before flashed at the edges of his vision. Objects appeared and disappeared randomly around him, but he kept moving, one foot in front of the other. Focus on the goal. The first inverter looked like it was made of smoke, but when June touched it, it felt like cold metal. He connected the device Dr. Kett had given him and pressed the first sequence. A wave of normality spread out from the inverter, creating a small bubble of stable space around June. Good, Minji said. I'm reading improved stability in your sector. 7 more to go. June turned to find the next inverter. As he moved deeper into the chamber, the distortions grew stronger. Twice he had to stop and close his eyes when the impossible geometry threatened to overwhelm him. But he pressed on. With each inverter he reset, the stable area grew larger. The impossible became merely improbable. The terrifying became merely strange. As he reached for the final inverter, a massive wave of distortion washed over him. For a moment, June existed in multiple places at once. He could see himself from outside his body. He could see through walls. He could see time itself flowing around him like a river. With an effort of will that felt like lifting a mountain, he pressed the final sequence. The core flared brightly, then settled into a steady, pulsing glow. The distortions faded. Reality snapped back into place with a soundless thunderclap. June found himself standing in what now appeared to be a perfectly ordinary maintenance room, albeit a large one. The core hummed contentedly in its housing. The door slid open and Minji rushed in, followed by Tai and Dr. Ket. "You did it," Minji said, hugging him tightly. Over the comm system, they could hear cheers from throughout the station. Dr. Ket approached and made a formal bowing gesture. "On behalf of all beings on this station and in this sector, I thank you, Human June. You have saved countless lives today." "Just doing my job," June said with a tired smile. "The job only humans aren't too afraid to do." Word of what June had done spread quickly throughout Starbase Epsilon 9. Beings from all departments stopped him in corridors to thank him. Some reached out to touch him, as if to confirm he was real, and not some quantum ghost. Others kept their distance, watching him with newfound respect and just a touch of fear. But June had little time to enjoy his new fame. The day after the crisis, Dr. Ket called all 3 humans to a private meeting in the science lab. "The core is stable for now," the Rigelian scientist told them, his forearms moving in careful gestures as he spoke. "But we have discovered something concerning. The quantum field is still unstable in certain areas of the station." Minji frowned. "The maintenance chambers?" "No," Dr. Ket said. "Those are functioning normally. The instabilities are in unexpected locations. Storage rooms, air ducts, even parts of the residential sections." "That's not possible," Tay said. "The quantum field is contained by the isolation barriers." Dr. Ket's compound eyes reflected the light from the displays around them. "It seems the core malfunction created quantum bridges, small tunnels through normal space where the altered physics of the core can leak through." June thought about this. "Like cracks in a dam?" "An apt metaphor," Dr. Ket agreed. "And like cracks, they must be repaired before they grow larger." "How do we find these bridges?" Minji asked. Dr. Ket gestured to a device on the table. It looked like a handheld scanner with a small screen. "This will detect quantum irregularities, but finding them is only part of the problem. Someone must enter each affected area and activate a containment field generator at the exact center of the distortion." The 3 humans looked at each other. "Let me guess," Tay said. "No one but humans can enter these areas without going insane." "Correct," Dr. Ket admitted. "We have tried." A Centaurian engineer attempted to approach one of the distortions. His mind broke. "He is now in medical stasis until we can find help for him." June picked up the scanner. It felt heavy in his hand. "How many of these bridges are there?" "We have detected 17 so far," Dr. Ket said. "There may be more." They divided the station into 3 sections. June would take the central hub, Minji the outer ring, and Tay the connecting spokes. Each carried a scanner and a pack of containment field generators. June's first quantum bridge was in a storage room near the central computer core. The scanner led him to a corner where cleaning supplies were stored. At first, he saw nothing unusual. Then he noticed how the shadows in that corner didn't match the light sources in the room. They bent at impossible angles, creating patterns that hurt his eyes to follow. He activated his comm. "I found the first one. It's subtle, but definitely there." "What's it like?" Minji's voice asked. June stepped closer to the distortion. The air seemed to thicken around him. Colors shifted at the edge of his vision. "It's like looking at a picture that's almost normal, but something small is wrong. Your brain keeps trying to make sense of it and can't." "Be careful," Dr. Ket warned over the comm. "The effects will grow stronger as you approach the center." June took another step forward. Now he could clearly see the distortion, a sphere about 2 meters across where reality didn't work quite right. Inside it, simple objects behaved in complex ways. A mop leaning against the wall existed in 3 different positions simultaneously. A bucket both contained water and didn't contain water at the same time. Taking a deep breath, June stepped fully into the distortion. Immediately, his senses went haywire. He could taste colors. He could hear the atomic vibrations of the metal walls. He could see time passing like water flowing around stones. The scanner in his hand displayed nonsense, the readings changing faster than he could read them. But the device was designed for this. A small arrow pointed him toward the center of the distortion. Each step was harder than the last. The laws of physics grew more flexible, more contradictory. June's mind struggled to process what his senses reported. Part of him wanted to run away, to return to the comfortable certainty of normal space. But he pushed forward. One step. Another. The scanner's arrow grew brighter as he approached the center, and then he was there. A point in space where all possibilities existed simultaneously. The quantum bridge's heart. With hands that both were and weren't trembling, June took a containment field generator from his pack. He set it on what he hoped was the floor and activated it. Blue light erupted from the device, spreading outward in a perfect sphere. Where it touched the distortions, reality snapped back into place. The mop was now just a mop. The bucket definitely contained water. Shadows fell where they should. June breathed a sigh of relief. First one contained. Excellent, Dr. Kett responded. The readings show complete normalization in that sector. Over the next 6 hours, June found and contained 5 more quantum bridges. Each was different from the last. One made gravity reverse every few seconds. Another caused time to loop in a 3-minute cycle. A third filled a maintenance tunnel with strange crystalline growths that dissolved into music when touched. By the time he reached the 7th bridge, June was exhausted. His mind felt stretched like an overworked muscle. But this final distortion was the largest yet, filling an entire junction where 3 corridors met. "I'm at the last one," he reported. "It's big. Be careful," Minji said. "The larger ones are more complex. I had to concentrate on a math problem to keep my mind focused inside the big one I found." June stepped into the distortion zone. Immediately he felt his thoughts begin to scatter. This bridge was different. Instead of changing physical reality, it seemed to affect his mind directly. Memories from his childhood mixed with dreams he'd never had. He saw possibilities for his life that had never happened. Versions of himself that had made different choices. The arrow on the scanner flickered weakly, pointing down a corridor that stretched impossibly long before him. June forced his legs to move. One step. Another. The corridor changed as he walked. Sometimes it was the station, sometimes his childhood home, sometimes places he'd never seen before. Faces appeared in the walls. Some he recognized. Others were strangers. "June? Are you there?" Tay's voice crackled through the calm, sounding distant and strange. "Still here," June managed to say. "This one's tricky. It's affecting my thoughts." "Focus on something concrete," Tay advised. "Count your steps." June began counting. 1, 2, 3. The numbers gave him something to cling to as reality swirled around him. When he reached 107, the scanner beeped. He had found the center. This time, setting up the containment field was harder. His hands kept passing through the generator as if it wasn't solid. Or maybe his hands weren't solid. He couldn't tell anymore. Finally, after what felt like hours but might have been seconds, he activated the device. Blue light washed over him. The corridor snapped back to normal. The faces in the walls vanished. His thoughts became his own again. June sat down heavily on the floor, his back against the wall. "Last one contained," he reported. "All readings are normal," Dr. Kett confirmed. "Well done, humans. The station is secure once more." Later, in the recreation lounge, the 3 humans sat together at their usual table. They were quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. "What did you see in there?" Minji finally asked. "In the bridges?" Tay sipped his drink. "I saw impossibilities that made perfect sense. Contradictions that were somehow true. I saw mathematics come alive," Minji said. "Equations dancing in the air, solving themselves in beautiful patterns." June thought about the faces in the walls, the roads not taken, the lives he might have lived. "I saw choices," he said simply. "All the possible versions of reality." They fell silent again, but it was a comfortable silence. They had seen beyond the normal universe, touched the underlying chaos that most beings could not comprehend. And they had contained it, controlled it, made it safe for others. That was the job only humans weren't afraid to do, not because they didn't feel fear, but because they could accept the impossible and still function. Because they could look at a universe of endless, contradictory possibilities and see not madness, but wonder. 1 month after the quantum crisis, Starbase Epsilon 9 was busier than June had ever seen it. Ships of all sizes and shapes filled the docking bays. Beings from across the galaxy crowded the corridors. Some wore the simple uniforms of station personnel, others the elaborate robes and decorations of government officials. "I've never seen so many different species in one place," June said to Minji as they walked toward the main assembly hall. "Well, we did save an entire sector of space," she replied with a smile. Word travels fast. The station had become something of a legend throughout the Galactic Confederation. The place where reality itself had nearly unraveled, only to be mended by a handful of humans. News broadcasts had spread across inhabited worlds, and suddenly humans were the topic of much discussion. Tay met them outside the assembly hall. He wore a freshly pressed uniform with a new silver pin on the collar. "They just gave me this," he said, pointing to the pin. "Apparently I'm now the Confederation's expert on quantum communications." "Congratulations," June said, "though I'm not sure what that means." Tay shrugged. "Neither am I, but they're paying me twice as much now." The doors to the assembly hall opened. Inside, hundreds of beings filled the tiered seating. At the front, a raised platform held a table where important-looking aliens sat in ornate chairs. Administrator Thelix approached the 3 humans. "It is time," she said. "Please follow me to the platform." As they walked through the center aisle, June felt the eyes of everyone in the room watching them. Some gazes were curious, others respectful. A few seemed almost afraid. On the platform, Thelix directed them to stand before the table. The largest alien rose from the central chair. June recognized the massive being as an Arcturian, one of the founding species of the Confederation. His skin was deep blue with patterns that glowed slightly in the light. "I am Supreme Counselor Vaxer," the Arcturian announced, his deep voice carrying easily through the hall. "On behalf of the Galactic Confederation, I welcome the human representatives." The hall fell silent as Vaxer continued. "Throughout our history, we have encountered many species with unique abilities. Some can withstand extreme temperatures, others can communicate across vast distances, still others can manipulate energy fields with their minds." He gestured toward the 3 humans. "But never before have we met a species that can face the fundamental breakdown of reality with such adaptability." Vaxer lifted 3 small boxes from the table. "In recognition of your service to the Confederation, I present each of you with the Stellar Merit, our highest civilian honor." One by one, June, Minji, and Tai stepped forward to receive the medals. Each was a small star made of a metal June didn't recognize, hanging from a ribbon of shimmering material that seemed to change color depending on the angle of light. "We are honored," Minji said, speaking for all 3 of them. After the ceremony, a reception was held in the station's largest lounge. Tables of food and drink from dozens of worlds lined the walls. The room buzzed with conversation in many languages. June found himself cornered by curious diplomats from a dozen worlds. They asked question after question about his experiences in the quantum chambers and bridges. "What is your secret?" asked a Procyon ambassador, a short being with gray fur and large, intelligent eyes. "How do humans manage what no other species can?" June considered the question carefully. "I think it's because most species evolved in environments where the rules never changed. You developed highly specialized adaptations for very stable conditions. But Earth was chaotic. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, rapid climate shifts. We never had the luxury of specialization." "Interesting theory," the Procyon said, "but environmental adaptation doesn't explain psychological resilience to conceptual impossibilities." Minji joined the conversation. "And then there's our imagination. Humans spent thousands of years telling stories about impossible things, magic, supernatural beings, alternate realities. We've been playing with the idea that reality might not Be what it seems since before we had written language. A tall serpentine diplomat with feathered crests hissed thoughtfully. So you believe it is cultural rather than biological? It's both, Tay said, joining them with a plate of colorful foods. Our brains evolved to be flexible because our environment demanded it. Then our cultures built on that foundation with art and stories that stretched our minds even further. Hendo popped a blue cube into his mouth and continued. But most importantly, we've always been comfortable with not knowing. Other species seek certainty. Humans embrace mystery. We don't need reality to make sense all the time. The Procyon seemed puzzled. But surely you feel fear when confronted with such violations of natural law. Absolutely. All three humans answered in unison. June smiled. The difference isn't that humans don't fear the impossible. It's that when faced with the impossible, we get curious instead of just frightened. As the reception continued, June noticed Dr. Kett speaking with Supreme Counselor Vaxer and several other important-looking officials. They kept glancing in the humans' direction. Later, Dr. Kett approached them. The council wishes to speak with you privately, he said. Please follow me. In a small meeting room adjacent to the lounge, Vaxer and 5 other high-ranking officials waited. The Supreme Counselor gestured for the humans to sit. What we are about to discuss is not yet public knowledge, Vaxer began. The quantum instabilities you experienced on this station are not isolated incidents. Similar phenomena have been detected in 12 different sectors of Confederation space. Are they natural or artificial? Tay asked. We do not know, Vaxer admitted. But they are increasing in frequency and intensity. Our scientists believe they may be early signs of a larger cosmic event, one that could affect the entire galaxy. June felt a chill at these words. What kind of event? A breakdown in the fundamental laws of physics, Dr. Kett explained. Spaces where reality itself becomes unstable. If the process continues unchecked, these spaces could expand, eventually engulfing entire star systems. And you need people who can function in these spaces, Minji guessed. People who can fix whatever's breaking. Precisely, Vaxer said. The Confederation is establishing a new division specifically for this purpose. We are calling it the Quantum Irregularity Response Division. And you want us to join, June said. It wasn't a question. Vaxor's patterns glowed brighter. We need humans. As many as your world can provide, you are uniquely suited to this task. They're calling it the job only humans aren't too afraid to do, Dr. Kett added with what might have been a smile. It was hard to tell with Rigelian facial structures. The 3 humans exchanged glances. We would need to return to Earth, Minji said. To recruit others, set up training programs. Of course, Vaxor agreed. We have already prepared a ship. It awaits your convenience. As they left the meeting, June felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride at being recognized for their unique abilities. Concern about the cosmic events Vaxor had described. Excitement at the prospect of a new challenge. Do you think people will volunteer? Tay asked as they walked back to their quarters. June thought about Earth, about the explorers and adventurers throughout human history who had faced the unknown, about the scientists and philosophers who questioned reality itself. I think they'll line up around the block, he said. Millions of humans will want to see the impossible, to work in spaces where reality itself breaks down. Minji nodded. Not because they aren't afraid, but because they've always thrived at the boundary between the known and the unknowable, Tay finished. That night, June stood at the viewport in his quarters, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, reality itself was coming undone. Most species would run from such a crisis. Humans would run toward it. Not fearlessly, but with that uniquely human combination of terror and fascination that had taken them from caves to the stars. June smiled. They had found humanity's place in the cosmos, not as the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but as the ones who could stare into the face of impossible chaos and say, "How interesting. Let's take a closer look."